and welcome to Talkin Jake. Always a special day when Foolish Bailey is with myself and BBD as we go over the trade deadline and we know what the kids like. It's tier list season. Wait, where's Jolly? Upgrade button. It's Foolish Bailey. Bailey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. The kids do love a tier list, and they love S. S is the best in a tier list.
Yeah.
I'm still not entirely sure why that is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's been commented numerous times. Me and Jolly went through the positions before the year. Beebs, I think I have current categories laid out. Do you want me to run through them again? You there?
I've written them down.
Okay.
As you read them to me pre-show.
So I currently, for the Talkin Jake people, thank you, subscribe. Look at that. I currently have won the trade deadline. Pretty basic at the top. Move the needle. I think that's a fun one because that's kind of the ask at the end of the day. Except for those Yankee fans, we want more. Below that, I have move the mouse, which is kind of the something happened. We our
definitely did something.
Front office was awake. They shook the screensaver loose. Below that, I have what was this. Nothing matters. And then I have we could have confidently done better, which if you know me, I'm not that way. I like to think the front office is a secret place where we have all these numbers and information and codes that help. But I also think half of them aren't. I think half of them do have secret sauces and the other half just have no clue what they're doing. So, with that, let's start placing, and when we do our tier list, we usually shuffle some things around during, and if we find something we like. I guess aiming wide, Bailey, where'd this deadline land for you? There was a lot of transactions, there obviously wasn't the big fish. Did you find it enjoyable, or did you find it kind of meh?
I found it more enjoyable than my previously low expectations.
Yeah.
Like we talked about this last month. Who was a contender, who was going to be a buyer, who was a seller at the deadline hadn't really revealed itself a month ago. And there has been some separation in the standings since. So we did see some teams really commit to selling or really commit to buying. But the thing that I also enjoyed is there were some teams that did a little bit of both. And I think we'll talk about those teams as well. And so that sort of spiced up the deadline because it wasn't generic buyer seller. There's some teams in the middle just kind of wheeling and dealing a little bit there. And that's probably what I enjoyed the most.
We'll start off lamestream media. That's all I am now these days. I used to be, the cool guy that rolled with John Boy. Now I'm just another lame streamer. What are the wins? Like who's, clicking around the internet this morning and going by gut feel, there was a lot of Dodgers talk out there. I feel like the Padres have to be in the conversation. I know the capital-wise, they gave up a lot. The Orioles did a lot. A couple teams also did a lot of transactions. I guess who from there jumps out for you, or who else am I missing?
In terms of teams that would be viewed as buyers, I think the Dodgers did the best here. They got the best rental arm available in Flaherty. And Tommy Edman is a good baseball player. That's really all I can say about it. Tommy Edman is a good baseball player. He puts up his WAR. He steals bases. He plays great defense. He's versatile. He's like a league average-ish hitter throughout his career. He's like a really good baseball player, and just like the fit is just so good with those two. I think of all the teams that were just buying, they did a great job of acquiring the talent they need to acquire without giving a ton of prospect capital up.
Yeah, and Kopech, arm talent-wise of relievers, He's in the discussion. That gets a little tricky because, I could also say Gregory Soto has great arm talent, but his obviously value is in a different place right now. I think it's tough to negotiate against the Dodgers. I guess the only thing where I was kind of getting defensive this morning a little bit was people were talking about Kiermaier, Rosario, and some of their other moves in a positive light. And, I get it. They're MLB names we know, but also, the back end of that Dodgers lineup can still end up in a weird place. And I don't know. I guess people were talking about their offensive moves impressively, and I don't feel that way.
No, I think that's fair to say. Like, Edman is a league average bat, and he's probably the best bat they added. So, that's not necessarily a lineup lengthener. It's just it's a good guy to have, but I do agree that that does not necessarily give the bottom half of the lineup a huge boost.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, there's going to be a lot of injuries for every team. There's going to be guys coming back right now. The bottom of the Dodgers lineup as of today, and again, Mookie Betts is going to come back, and I'm not sure Muncie's timeline, sure, but right near their 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is listed as Jason Hayward, Andy Pages, Kevin Biggio, Kike Hernandez, and Nick Ahmed, with a bench of Ahmed Rosario, Kiermaier, and Outman. So, like, hey, a lot of things are going to come together for this Dodgers team. They're a power player, and maybe the biggest thing where they are a win that I need to put the guns down a little bit, capital-wise, that we're going to talk about with some of these other teams. Yeah, it didn't feel like they. I mean, I like Miguel Vargas a lot. I think he's got quick hands, and I tough for anyone in Chicago right now to contribute. But I don't know if Miguel Vargas had a big second half, we'd be looking at him as a middle of the lineup Dodgers hitter.
Yeah, he's a guy who's like sort of trended down in the long term, and I feel for him. But it'll be interesting to see like what he can do going forward.
Yeah, My scouting is tough. He has quick hands, and I feel like, well, you never know players with opportunity. The White Sox, well, I'm interested to see where they're at on this list. I think the Dodgers probably go on top of the pie for now. We'll see if anyone else deserves to really join them up there. Who else's deadline did you really like, Bailey?
There were really three other teams I really liked, and if you want to let me hit on all three of those.
Please, Cook.
Okay.
I've started saying Cook like I really use it, and that's
right.
That's a we got ice effect.
That's how it starts.
So I think I need to. I want to apologize to the people on that.
The problem is, and BBD is correct about this, is once you start ironically using it, you will start unironically using it, and there will be no clear point of transition from there.
Remember mid?
Mid was bad.
From mid as well, yeah. God. These teams are not mid though in terms of their trade deadlines. I liked what the Marlins did.
Okay,
they really loaded up. It's a deep system. Agustin Ramirez, who was in the Jazz Chisholm trade, was in my opinion probably the best prospect traded at the entire trade deadline. Rays, I think, did a good job. They did weird Rays-y buying and selling at the same time. I really liked it for them overall. It'll just probably work for them both in the short term and the long term. And I'm going to shout out the Toronto Blue Jays as well. I really liked what the Blue Jays did here because, and we'll talk about it also from the Astros perspective later, but that Kikuchi deal, I think the return on that was really nice. That to me felt like maybe the most lopsided deal in terms of this entire trade deadline. And I just feel like the way they position themselves, they sort of lengthened the window. They gave themselves another crack at it next year. And, I liked it.
Yeah, I think I'm full on board with you for both Miami teams. Tampa Bay, the number of prospects they got, while, Chris Morel for Paredes, I hear the, some of the analytic stuff on Paredes that maybe he's playing slightly above his skis. I know he does have the full pull thing that we've talked about on here before that I believe in. Like, I've seen Paredes. That guy can play baseball. Big prospect. It feels like the Rays tapped into it, and now they're trying to cash in more. I am a Christopher Morel guy that I think the Rays are laughing a little bit. I think they can get the same production out of Morel, if not more pop, while also cashing in on more prospects along the way. And, dude, that Trevor Rogers package, I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like for everything we've dreamt of the Orioles cashing in some of their more real prospects, like Connor Norby, I think he qualifies, top 50 type prospect. I realize there's the Holidays and Adleys and guys ahead of him. But I don't know. For the cash in to be Trevor Rogers, that was a little surprising.
I actually didn't find it too shocking. Like Connor Norby, we'll get into it, but
okay.
like he is a tier of prospect that competitors trade. Like
Okay.
he's not like that's great guy to have around and to cash in that chip when you get the opportunity. But when you get the opportunity, you do move on, I think,
Okay.
when you're a good team.
I like the way you phrase that. Like that's kind of every team has their own individual almost prospect line they don't cross. For our Yankees that we're familiar with, if you're a top 25 guy, I think they feel invested enough / scared to get hurt that guy is gonna see daylight with the Yankees at this point. Whether it's Volpe, whether it's Dominguez, whether it's I think Spencer Jones, I think he just crossed into the we're too scared to get hurt by it. I think other teams would have been more willing to because there's risk there with the strikeouts rate, and not all Giants are good at baseball. As all three of us are under the 5'9", 5'8" marker on this show. BBD,
The right shoes.
You're the high man.
I claim 5'10" on.
You're the center on this pickup basketball team.
of our US 3x3 team.
Draymond.
Sorry, it looked like you had something to say, whether it was about Yankees prospects, Spencer Jones, or something else. And then I took us to
I was about to say what you just said, which is that other teams would have definitely moved on from a Spencer Jones tier prospect.
Right. Enough Yankee talk. Actually, let's stay with the Orioles a little bit because this one I've been digesting a little bit, and maybe some people will find irony here. I have wanted Eloy to be freed for a while. I love his natural talent when he's right. I do think I think we're silly as baseball fans to assume that players are going to give the same effort on bad losing teams than they would on a team that has a lot of hope. And I realize there's early results on Jazz Chisholm being a Yankee. But when you're playing for something, that matters. Like just how you show up. Eloy's probably going to be pretty hyped to show up to work, and I don't think any White Sox player has said that over the past couple years. But the money for Eloy, who's been an injury-prone DH, his recent performance, and then I guess on the other side of it, we already mentioned Rogers a little bit. Eflin, who is it rude to call him a Chad innings eater? Is he a step above that? Because he's giving productive innings.
He's a glorified innings eater. He is good. Right. I wish my Braves traded for him, but yeah, I mean that is the role he's there is to be a quality start machine, and that quality start may be 6 innings, 3 earned runs every time.
Right, and I guess that's what I would say. When you say your Braves trade for him, I mean he would slot into the 4 or 5 starter, where the Orioles right now, I mean Zach Eflin has an argument for the 3 that we're talking playoff baseball. We're talking one of the favorites in the AL, and the money attached, which fans should not super care about. Although I don't think Baltimore knows what their spending future is truly. Yes, we have new ownership. Yes, you did Corbin Burns. But that $18 million for Zach Eflin next year, again, it doesn't hurt a team, but value-wise, I don't know. Like the Rays were not happy to move on, but kind of.
Yeah, no, I mean, we talked about this in the trade deadline episode we did last time around, that because the Eflin deal was backloaded, that would be a priority for them because that $18 million for him is probably more than they'd be comfortable spending. I will say this, though, with regards to the long-term spending, like Eloy's not a factor in that. Like he is a rental. He has club options, and they're going to get declined, almost certainly, I would say.
If he goes nuts, there's a chance, right?
I'm going to say no, and here's why, because I think he's just going to be a platoon bat. So like a few homers against lefties, it's not enough for you to convince yourself that he needs that type of money.
Man, an Eloy September, October would put that fan base in an interesting spot for the first time in a little while. I don't think you can just for DH value wise, but that could be fun to watch. So did you like the Orioles moves in general?
Yeah, they moved the needle. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. BBD.
Yeah, they did. They did. You can't argue against that at all, I guess. And maybe the other thing here is being compared to your your peers. Like it's tough to say another American League contender put the chips more on the table.
The Yankees did, I would say.
Okay, please, because we had an office of morose Yankee fans yesterday because daydreams of Jack Flaherty and Carlos Estevez's or Tanner Scott's all went out the window. That we're sitting here with 2 homer a game Jazz Chisholm with our tail between our legs.
Right. I mean, the thing that they're forgetting is that Jazz Chisholm is now pacing for about 100 home runs this year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Coming for Judge.
Yeah, he's coming for Judge. But no, I mean, Jazz is a serious acquisition, and Augusto Ramirez is a serious prospect to give up. I think there is disappointment there with regards to the pitching, but also, like, I mean, you got to remember, like, part of this conversation was maybe they were going to trade Nestor, and they didn't do that. So I think they're in an all right spot. I mean, the Orioles are better than them. Like, I think they're probably going to win that division, but I don't know if Jack Flaherty would have made a difference, to be honest with you. Like that, I think the Yankees handled it just fine. They drew the line in the prospect sand, and they'll be in a perfectly fine position come October.
Well, what about, as we go Orioles to Yankees, the best team in the American League, the Cleveland Guard Dogs? They brought in Lane Thomas, who's been in trade rumors for a little while now, and just such a Guardians trade. And then Alex Cobb at the buzzer, which everyone was like, all right, this is something. I mean, does that move the needle for you? Does that move the mouse for you?
I'm gonna say it moves the needle, and I'm gonna tell you why. The Lane Thomas thing, correct, right? Like, I think if you asked, Chris Rose, he'd be like, "This is the most Guardians outfielder trade deadline acquisition of all time," right? The Alex Cobb is sneaky. I think it's sneaky good potentially.
You're into it, okay?
He has not pitched in the majors this year. He has had one start in the minors. I've seen some of the pitch data from it. It looks like it was pretty good. This is a guy who has had stretches, with the Giants particularly, where the peripherals have been really, really nice. I thought it was very sneaky. I thought it was very Cleveland. The obvious move for them, would have been to try to get like Fetty from within the division or someone like that, like cheap, right? They got even cheaper. They got more creative. They got Alex Cobb. I actually quite liked it. I'm going to call it a needle mover because of that.
Wow, that was okay. See, I thought Cobb, and I guess I just live in the world of fear of pitcher injuries right now, that if you haven't pitched at this point of the season, it's very daunting for me, especially Alex Cobb, 36 now. 36, turns 37 October 7th, where he'll be the starting pitcher against the New York Yankees. But yeah, I don't know. I know Chris Rose didn't love the Cobb part of it, but I think risk reward wise with Cobb, I guess it's low risk and there's a chance for a high end starting pitcher, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. You're talking about risk reward. There is no risk. There is definitely potential for reward, though. Like, there is upside here, and I don't think people are acknowledging that.
Okay, let's There's been a little too much positivity for me, Bailey. Yeah, great. Oh, the AL contenders. You moved. Oh, Dodgers. We love. I skipped the Blue Jays a little bit. I'll circle back on that because they did get a nice Kikuchi package. I guess I just want to see more. I don't know. What deadlines are you hating?
Pirates, man.
Okay.
They had a chance to really make an impact on this wild card race, and they came away with the two key acquisitions were Brian De La Cruz and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. If it was sheer amount of names, that's great. That's 7 names right there,
right,
between those two. But Brian De La Cruz, I get it. Like, I was in on him at one point, probably, I guess, going into 2022. I was like, oh yeah, because he had a nice September in 21. And I was like, oh, this is a guy. He's got pop. He's got barrel rates. And since then, it's like he's a slightly below league average hitter at a corner outfield spot, and he's not a good defender either. Like, is he better than Connor Joe? Like, that's presumably like who he's kind of going to take some playing time from. IKF is IKF, like, that's
what's that mean?
I mean, it's not a bad guy to have, but it's certainly not a needle mover.
Right.
Man, they just had an opportunity here. And I guess the philosophy was, we're a young team. We're going to get more cracks at it down the line. We have enough pitching prospects, and they did cash in a little bit with the Quinn Priester element there, that we can use as our poker chips at the table, or that they can really fill out this rotation in the years to come. But I just feel like, and there's another team I'll say similarly about later on. These young teams that feel like they're entering their window rather than exiting it, and the caution they're showing around the trade deadline, I think is the wrong way to do it, because tomorrow is never granted. They're relying on, because next year will be better and we'll have this rookie come up and blah, blah. There's no need to push in all our chips now. I just don't think so. I think if you've got to crack at a wild card spot, you've got to make an earnest attempt at getting there, and I don't feel like they did.
Yeah, the Pirates for me, I do think a fair part of the exercise is, like, in theory, I love Brent Rooker to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Like, I thought that would be, hey, you got some window years there, you got some high-end potential. Brent Rooker didn't get traded, and who knows what Oakland was asking, because there's a lot of Brent Rooker's numbers you could look at and be like, damn, I think he's awesome. So the A's could have been asking for a lot. He didn't get traded, so I can't judge on that. I can judge on Jesse Winker, man. Like, Jesse Winker, the Pirate, that feels impactful. Like a 130 OPS plus type guy that you could plug into that lineup. Also, I mean, this is dumb Jakey fan GM, but like Jesse Winker's general energy with what's going on in Pittsburgh right now, that would have been electric. So the fact that you pass on whatever that could have been, yeah, that hurts.
Yeah, it does. And they're not the only team I would say did that, but I think they're the worst offender overall.
Who's the other one that's jonesing at you? Because I see what's the phrase? I was gonna say itching at the. Are there any
Chomping
phrases?
at the bit?
Chomping at the bit. Yeah. Itching at the bits.
I would say the Minnesota Twins, and maybe this could be applied to the Pirates as well. It's on the ownership. Like, they were just like, don't add any salary, and they're like, well, we can't really do anything. And I think maybe some teams got a little more creative than those two in that regard. But I mean, they're 6.5 off the Guardians, and I just feel like I really have believed all year that the Twins were going to chase them down the entire year. I've been like, even with the Guardians hot spot, I'm like, the Twins are better. And now I'm just not so sure. I mean, 6.5 back with basically 2 months to go in the season, and very little coming from the trade deadline. They're going to be super reliant on, if Royce Lewis and Correa go crazy and Buxton, then yeah, it's there for them. But there were maybe opportunities here at the trade deadline, and I feel like they just basically did nothing.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see, because I again, not to go full hippie on you guys. Energy in life and stuff just matters. Right now, the Twins are getting bullied by the New York Mets. Maybe they salvage his last game, Pablo versus Sevy. Tune in. And next week, they've got a full Chicago week. It's White Sox and Cubbies. So, hey, maybe we're looking at the Twins a week from now, and they've rattled off 7 out of 8, and they're 3.5 back, whatever it is. Man, to get beat down by the Mets twice in completely different fashions, to not do anything at the deadline, no offense to Trevor Richards, go sling some changeups up there. Why not? Dude, we've been fake anti-Minnesota just because of our mutual friend Trevor Plouffe. Almost just send your jabs. And we've got some easy jabs we've been able to send at Minnesota the past couple years. They've got some easy jabs.
The past 20 years?
Yeah. They've got some easy jabs that they can send at the Yankees for the last 15 or so. I like the Twins.
Yeah, me too.
The lineup is very real.
They're a good team.
And
look,
please,
back in the rotation too. Woods Richardson's been good. Like, that was the biggest question mark.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess this deadline, we didn't see a lot of the, hey, I'll give you this player, but you have to eat their money, that maybe Minnesota would have been into things like that. Because the prices were up this year. We talked about the seller's market, and I think we saw that happen. But Minnesota also had, it feels like there was options. Like, even, I know Max Kepler's been there forever, but if that was your money out, a Max Kepler bat, I feel like could have gotten a real return.
Yeah.
And you have guys like, I don't know, dude, Kepler, Larnack, there's always a Minnesota Moose, Matt Wallner. Like, I feel like lineup-wise, I actually feel good with where they're at, that they should have done more, man. It's a nice roster. Kirilloff is the other lefty that they all blur together in Minnesota for me. That, I don't know, it felt like there was more there. And that's tough. I really like the lineup. Really?
Yeah, and what's funny is I think they could still win the division just because the roster is really good, and maybe that's their perspective is like I think people that were a little overwhelmed at the Orioles, like, well, you look at the roster, like, where are you going to improve, you know? And there's maybe a slight element of that with the Twins, but yeah, I'm sure there are opportunities there, and they just did not come into fruition.
Bailey, before we keep cooking, I need to tell the people about DraftKings, the DraftKings Sportsbook. Make sure you guys head there, get in all the action now before football season sneaks up on us. If you bet $5 on anything, you get $150 in bonus bets instantly with promo code BAKERS. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code BAKERS and bet just $5 on any wager. Get $150 in bonus bets instantly. BAKERS, DraftKings Sportsbook. Bang.
Professional.
That's all I know, man. That's who I am. How about this? Let's chalk off some teams that we just pretty much straight up don't want to talk about. Like the Colorado Rockies, the Nick Mears trade. Unfortunately, I can only bring so much to the table about that.
Yeah, he has good pitch data, so probably not good to trade him. Good job, Brewers, I guess. Though it's Rockies Brewers, it's a reliever. I don't know. It doesn't sound good.
Oh, no, it should be a nightmare for Rockies fans in a month or two, because Nick Mears it inevitably will be his last 9 innings. He struck out all 27 he faced, and you're like, wow, Milwaukee, right. That's what they do. God, I guess who else is like a tweener? Like, I mean, Oakland kind of wasn't a juicy deadline, right?
No, they could have moved on from Miller or Rooker, and they chose not to. They did trade Lucas. Is it Urseg? Is that how you say his last name? But, and that is, I would say, significant to some degree, just because of the amount of team control, which was part of the discussion with Miller in the first place. So, good job, Royals there, but Oakland A's not it didn't change anything, you know?
Yeah, I guess Twins and A's were the last two teams that everyone was like, oh, they haven't done anything. Urseg's interesting. Everybody loves him. I don't know if that's the story behind position player pitching. Brett Phillips to the Yankees, which I know you're going to dive in hour 2 of this program.
Prospect people I know were underwhelmed by the Urseg package. How much value does a reliever have even with that much time? It's an interesting equation. Felt like more could have happened there.
If he's good. How about the team he went to, the Kansas City Royals? A little head shake. Uh-oh.
I don't love it. And I think I'm gonna excuse it a little bit because among the teams that are potential buyers, they didn't have a lot of prospect capital to choose from. So I like the Urseg trade, but there's not much here that really changes the outlook for me. If they, make the playoffs and grab a wild card spot, it'll be on the merit of the team that they had in April, not necessarily any of the moves they made at this deadline.
Yeah, there's a certain level of respect that I want to give them, because it feels like they're trying to win at feels like they're doing things proper. Like, hey, we're going to sign a couple free agents to bolster our team. We're going to make a couple trades to try to bolster our team, and hopefully we end up in a good spot. I think it's just there's this weird thing in the back of everyone's head that they're like, I don't think the Royals are going to end up in the playoffs, which maybe they will, dude, because Bobby Witt is dumb good.
Yes.
The 2 plays he made in the 9th inning to help end their game the other day, to be doing that at shortstop and be doing what he's doing offensively, it's really unreal. And Vinny Pasquantino's a friend, so I'm A-Rod. Who else do we care about? Detroit, I mean, they go with a sell, but I don't know Chafin, Flaherty, like nothing needle moving either way, right?
Yeah, I just didn't care.
Yeah,
You
there's
know?
just the,
Like,
the
just like
obvious
whatever,
sell
blah,
things.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, for a trade deadline where we saw teams, like you mentioned, the Kikuchi trade and Trevor Rogers, a couple trades that you're like, wow, there's some real parts moving. Hell, I guess a team we've been dancing around during the duration of this, the Padres. The package for Tanner Scott, that felt real. Was that more than they got for Rogers?
More than they got for Rogers. Let me look at what was the Rogers return again?
Rogers was Norby
Norby.
and Stowers.
Yeah, it was no, that's definitely more, I would say. But the Padres, well, I mean, I've said this about them before, but like Preller's just he's a prospect machine. He's probably he loses like probably 90% of his trades in terms of dollars per war, but every now and then he gets to get like Juan Soto or Fernando Tatis Jr. or something like that, and like everyone's like, oh, they emptied the farm. No, they'll be back. The farm will be back, and he had at least this trade deadline. He did, as you said, draw the prospect line in the sand. He's not trading Ethan Salas. He was not trading. Here's a good name, Leodalis DeVries or
Yeah.
DeVries. That's a guy to look out for, by the way. He's like 17 in A-ball, doing really good job. But yeah, the Padres actually really like the deadline because if you just ascribe to the AJ Preller is an infinite prospects machine, then they're fine. Like they gave up a lot of guys who are all basically trending downward, like Robbie Snelling and Adam Mazer. Those were guys they were really excited about in April.
Right.
But it's not April anymore. It's the last day of July, and the things can change for prospects in the outlook very quickly.
Yeah, it was, Graham Pauley. I remember there was talks he was going to be their opening day third baseman, and I was like, who's this guy?
He like barely played in Double-A.
Hey, can I ask you a question? Why aren't we doing All-Star break prospect rankings updates?
There are the concept certainly exists. What I find is very often they're behind a paywall, which is why the average fan goes to MLB Pipeline and doesn't get the updated stuff, and then it gives people the wrong idea.
It's just insane to me. It's insane that at the start of every year or the end of the season, that's what we see when the one time people truly care. Like before the season, sure, how are our prospects looking? How many top 100 do we got? When the trades are actually happening, I don't know. It feels like this shouldn't be something I have to say.
No, I agree with you. I will say in the defense of prospect evaluators up there, particularly public-facing ones, it's really hard
It's
to
a
make a
losing
list.
game.
Yeah, because it's just constant information coming in every single game, and so much can change for a prospect's outlook over the course of even a few weeks or a few months, and there's so many of them, it's hard to keep track.
Leo Dallas DeVries, your guy.
Yeah.
That's
my guy.
That's just an everyday update. Getting a little sad hearing that you say Augustin Ramirez was the best prospect traded, and then seeing his Double-A numbers. Like, I don't know. I guess welcome to the life of a GM.
Yeah,
God.
for sure, man.
Jazz looks great though.
Just got another hit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this guy's the
Stanton
best ever.
got a hit. Jazz got a hit.
I'd like to comment on Jazz as well.
Please.
Like, as corny as it sounds, like, and as funny as it is that, probably the fan base, which I would say has the reputation for holding players accountable the most. He just he just needs someone to believe in him. That's really what it was. Like, coming up, he came through the Arizona system. They traded him away for Zach Gallen. Miami, there's just, and I don't want to criticize Miami too much because they did make the playoffs last year. It's just a low energy organization, and he's a high energy guy. And I just feel like he just needed some organization to believe in him. And I hope it's the Yankees, but even early in the year, like beyond that stuff, like he was exhibiting signs that his true talent level had improved, even if he was still being a league average hitter, because stuff like the barrel rate and the chase rate and the contact rate were all improving, and I think the Yankees capitalized on that as much as the need for like an energy guy.
Yeah, we were. Again, I keep using the word morose because it made me laugh in the movie Knocked Up. They do shrooms in a Vegas hotel room, and they talk about how the chairs are looking at them. It's a really great scene. It didn't need to be in the movie, but it was nice that it was. They really let Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen cook. For the Yankees, it's funny. We did a whole discussion of like, being logical, illogical fans. Like we want a wipeout pitcher, whether that's a starter or reliever, and we didn't get that. Jazz Chisholm does have the chance to be. Now, double check me on this, but he has a chance to be the most valuable piece that was traded at this deadline. Like, if Jazz Chisholm is a plus infielder, outfielder for the next 2.5 years, that has an argument to be the most valuable player traded for.
I think that's extremely true. I think that is a definite possibility because everyone knows like he's more, untapped potential, if anything. And I think that's why there's been some frustration with him because, it's so dumb to go back on. Like, people were mad he was on the cover of MLB The Show. People are mad that he has the same attitude that Soto has, the same level of cockiness, but people are mad just because he didn't have Soto's track record.
Right.
Well, what if he does? What if that, that could happen? Like, what if he has a 950 OPS for the rest of the season in a Yankees uniform? What if he has 2 great seasons after that? Like, we'll laugh at the idea that Jazz Chisholm was ever considered overrated.
Yeah, that's the MLB The Show stuff is complete BS. Like,
yeah,
I don't know how the process goes, but I'm sure they inquire with multiple guys a year, and there's a price tag on it. And yes, did it help him that his name is Jazz? Probably, but who cares? I wish my name was Jazz. Like, it wouldn't be Talkin Jake. It'd be Jazz and I don't know.
It'd probably be just a different branding.
Yeah. Maybe it would help. Maybe it hurt. But yeah, the other thing that was just big light bulb moment for me, because again, it's how we appreciate the sport in different teams. Like, okay, in my head, Jazz Chisholm, second baseman, fine. Jazz Chisholm goes to the outfield. He says he's going to win the Gold Glove. Doesn't look like that. Fine. Covering ground, making some highlight plays. Seeing Jazz Chisholm play third base and then being like, okay, let me call timeout. He's 26. He's hyper athletic. He came up as a shortstop, like a lot of guys do. It's 2 games, but at third base, he's looked oddly comfortable. And when you just do hey, this guy was a slightly below average shortstop playing third base, there's a lot of guys that have a track record of that working out. Like, maybe this is really dumb and I could regret these words, but like, I feel like I was looking at the Yankees third baseman for the next 2.5 years.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know if I would go that far. Like, there's potential to move around. I mean, Glaber's a free agent after this year, right? So maybe it's second base for him. And I want to contrast that too a little bit just because, and I don't want to be too critical, but like, it's funny that like Jazz comes in with this reputation of being, if anything, kind of a selfish teammate. And there's a little bit of like that, you'll remember like that Miggy Rowe stuff he was talking about that like ruffled a few feathers. I know he's your guy too, but like Glaber was there saying, I play second base, like laying down the law. This is my zone. And Jazz is like, all right, I'm gonna come over and play third base. He's never played it before.
Right?
He's never played it.
Well, and I think it goes to everything you were talking about, whether between energy or between, feel. Like, showing up and playing for the Marlins feels very different than showing up and playing for the Yankees.
It does.
I think I dropped this last time, and this is unrelated, but it's just a flex for me. Tyler Glasnow at Cole Tucker's wedding, it was in his trade period. And, everyone's that's asking, like, okay, have you heard it? Blah, blah, blah. And I think someone hit him with, like, the Yankees call. You've got those beautiful locks. And Tyler Glasnow, without hesitation, he was like, I'd cut my hair. They're the Yankees, dude. Like, you're playing for the team that you always heard was the team.
I flipped through the Yankees, their dress code or whatever the other day. And they have no laws against tattoos in your bottom lip that say no juice.
Are you? I would
So-
double check that.
Okay, yeah.
Between the different Steinburners, I think different people have had different rules on that. Yeah. Hey, Mark Leiter Jr., that lettuce was flowing back there. I don't know if that's going to be a stern talking to or not.
I wonder if this morning something might have happened. I haven't seen him yet
The
today.
goatee was gone, but there's a lot of lettuce dripping out the back. And no one cares. What people do care about, Bailey, are your two favorite teams, the Atlanta Braves and the Seattle Mariners.
That's right.
Is anyone happy with the Braves? I'm seeing a lot of ho-hum about the Braves.
I'm feeling ho-hum personally. And I'll tell you why I'm feeling ho-hum. Well, first of all, it's like, is Anthopoulos, is he just a one-hit wonder? Is he just like a band that made one good album?
Whoa.
Did he make one good album and say, we'll just make that same album over and over and over again? And yet at the same time, there is a difference between how he handled trading for Soler this time versus last time. Because when he did it last time, he was coming off of it was 2021, and he was like, here's some guys who were good in 2019, Rosario and Jock and Jorge Soler, who had not been good in 2021 first half, and he was banking on the track record there. And because of that, there was no investment. These guys were unwanted. That's why the trade deadline worked. They acquired players. They were essentially unwanted, one-dimensional sluggers who weren't slugging, And what ended up happening is those sluggers got hot and they won the World Series. This is different because they've traded for Soler, and they've basically traded for the rights to the contract that the Giants just signed him to, that I guess the Braves could have signed him to if they really wanted to as well, and didn't. The tricky thing with it is not the short term. I think the short term is great. I mean, Soler, if you slot him in the Braves lineup right now, I think he has like the second highest on base percentage. Like he bats leadoff for them as he did in 2021. Like, I'm not doubting Jorge Soler's talents. It's the long term is weird because I don't think they can have Ozuna and Acuna and Soler at the same time.
Right.
Which would mean trading Ozuna's final year, which I wouldn't hate, like that, because they'd be selling high. The return would probably be really good. They could get, a chance to get a really good prospect or something like that. But it was just weird. And then that was basically the only thing they did. So it's a team banking on the idea that they have a good roster and they're going to get Harris back and they're going to get Fried back and eventually they're going to get Albies back. And it was very much a trade deadline. It's like, yeah, we're kind of resigned to a wild card spot, and that's baseball in 2024.
Yeah, like there's beauty to it, that if the Braves make a run this year, that Anthopoulos one hit that he keeps remixing, well, I get it.
Yeah.
If they end up falling flat, obviously people are going to point to Ronald's injury and Strider's injury, and whatever else happens along the way. But I don't know. There's also going to be a little bit of comedy there. Like, really, dude, you ran back the same thing with the same players? Like, that's, I don't know. That feels like fans running a team, which it normally gets scoffed at.
Yeah, there's going to be a game where Soler and Duvall and Rosario all play, and it's just, I mean, is this nostalgia, or is this good in 2024? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean
Soler's good. But
right.
The other two,
I guess for me, I see both sides of the argument, and there's part of me that really wants it to work out, because I just think there's something, because there should be something to the concept of like, hey, if our scouting and analytics liked player A 13 months ago, then we should still like that player's analytics. Just free agency happened and the Giants offered him more money, or however it played out, that in theory this shouldn't be insane, but feels insane.
it feels well. And here's what I'll say: the Giants were the team that confused me the most, and that I probably disliked the most. And I guess they would be in the what was this, and the Braves would be in the move to the mouse. But like, just, I think this trade deadline exposed the Giants, who came into the season with some expectations. I had expectations for sure, especially after they grabbed Chapman and Snell late. Just directionless, just utterly directionless, utterly rudderless. I just really hated it. Like they move off the Soler contract. It's okay, fine, but it's like you just signed him to that. Like, didn't
Yeah.
you want him? There was Blake Snell talk. It didn't happen. That would have honestly made more sense given the opt-out situation there. Uh, it just feels like they came into the regular season and they were like, okay, if all these things hit, right? If all these new acquisitions work, we're going to be a playoff team. And then as soon as Lee gets hurt, they were like, all right, it's over, Like there's no adjustment, there's no, once there's any deviation from the perfect plan, directionless.
It's like I don't want to say big market Royals because at least, the Royals are putting their chips on the table where the Giants.
Who goes there?
They're a little. They're just.
Who goes there?
That's the John Boy himself.
Oh, okay.
He's waving with his. Wow, look at that meat hook. Nice wave. Oh, see, that's for the YouTube only. Kind of
Come to
hard.
YouTube and subscribe.
Sorry, Dan Patrick fans, you won't see that one.
It's just the timing of everything is really tough for the Giants, where Snell finally comes back and pitches a couple good games. And there's Robbie Ray off the IL, one of their offseason acquisitions, and 5-inning shutout. But it's like, I don't know, man. You got to read the tea leaves just a little better because the Diamondbacks look good. And they had some strategic ads that I liked. The Padres, again, prospects aren't real. Let's go all in. And that's before you get to the Dodgers. So,
yeah.
In a way, I feel bad that, if the Giants were an NL Central team, I feel like we'd be having different fun conversations. But where they're currently at, it's tough to even look at the lineup on paper. Like, I'm sorry, Giants fans. I can very much talk myself into the pitching. Like, if everything goes right, awesome. This Giants lineup, I don't know. The further and further away we get from Buster Posey and Brandon Crawford finding sneaky MVP seasons, the more and more it feels like their calculus is off from one really good season.
Yeah, they're like, you said Royals, they're like the bad Brewers.
Okay.
Yeah. like no superstar in the lineup, but the Brewers make it work. Maybe that's discounting what Yelich is doing this year, but just in general, over the last few years, like lineup of a bunch of 100 OPS plus guys, good pitching, make it work,
Man, the Brewers, I haven't looked at their team page in a little bit. The starting pitching is funny. I mean, does their deadline move anything for you? It's Frankie Montas and Savali, which I guess putting all the trade deadline names down on paper of the starting pitching, there's something there, and they needed innings.
Yeah, that's basically what I wrote. I said it was cheap and Brewersy, but it was good. I liked it. They got cheap innings. They needed cheap innings. What else is there to say?
I mean, that is the whole scouting report. Let's see. As I peruse NL teams, I feel like there's a couple big ones. As much as I love my Snakes, like it's reliever ads, and it's nice. But
Josh Bell
is the emergency Walker replacement.
It was timely.
Felt like a move the mouse if I had to label it. Like, hey, we added relievers, but we're banking on what we have here. I mean, the Cubs made plus-minus moves. I'd love to get your thoughts on that. And then the Mets and Cardinals sneaky danced a bit that I'd like to hear on those three.
Yeah, well, I'll hit Diamondbacks real quick. Didn't like it.
Okay.
Josh Bell, timely. It just felt like they're in a precarious spot and they didn't do enough. I think they may get passed up in terms of this wild card race in the last couple months here. Who'd you want me to hit on? Cardinals?
Cardinals and
Cubbies.
Mets.
Cardinals and Mets. What do I have here on Cardinals? It was the one trade, the big three-way trade was the impactful one, like getting Pham and getting Fetty. They got Fetty? Did I have that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. It's hard to keep track.
No, you're good. It was
nuts.
in that trade, a lot kind of got lost in translation that Hey, if Fetty does what he does this year and next year, he is one of the most valuable players traded.
Yes, it is because it's 1 year, I think 8.5 for him, and that's great. Like I mean, we in the last episode we compared it to Eflin, right? If we said Fetty and Eflin are similar enough pitchers, one of them is 18 million next year,
Right.
the other one's 8. That's a big difference. You can do a lot with that 10 million in the Cardinals position. So, yeah, it was good enough. I guess it's somewhere between move to the mouse and move to the needle because I was kind of sad to see Edmund go as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought that the Cardinals won the three-way trade. Like they got the best value and maybe the Dodgers were second and the White Sox third. I still kind of like it from the Dodgers side more, but Cardinals, good enough, gave themselves a shot. Better than Dimebacks.
Yeah, I don't know. I think value-wise, yeah, because again, Fetty for starting pitcher prices could have some serious value. The Snakes for me, I guess in my head, I was mentally locked in on them. Not doing a lot. So again, I guess my scope there already changed. That Corbin Carroll had an awful start. They're getting their starting pitching back. The Josh Bell, I guess you can say a little bit of a panic move. Also just a little bit of why not? Like, hey,
willing to pay the money he's owed.
He's there. If he could give us a month like he did last trade deadline, why not?
Yeah.
Hey, Puck is a reliever. All right, D-backs Jake, back off. Any Mets thoughts, Bailey?
Mets thoughts. You know what they did? It was like when you're playing like a franchise mode on a video game, right? And then there's like a screen that's like team needs or something like that. They just went and like filled it in. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, so I guess in that sense, it's a good deadline. They're like, we needed a lefty bat. Here's Jesse Winker. We needed a back end starter to 8 innings. Here's Paul Blackburn. All right, done and dusted.
Yeah.
Not very creative, but they checked the boxes.
That's fine. Yeah, you're right. They got that notification. You get silver points if you get 2 relievers.
Yeah.
Gold points if you could get Paul Blackburn. When I said Chad Innings Eater before, maybe he hits that. And hey, I guess I like the Winker deal as everything settled down. For what that Mets lineup is doing to people, if he can be Jesse Winker for 2 months, like they're officially a borderline problem in the National League.
Yeah, and I want to compliment them further too because they made those moves and they totally stuck with the timeline, which is for them the timeline is 2024 is kind of gravy. Like if they make the playoffs this year, that wasn't necessarily their expectation. They're really looking at 2025 and beyond. So they made those ads to try to push them over the finish line and get a wild card in 2024, but they didn't. It's not like they traded away any of those great prospects they got at the deadline last year when they were selling.
No, they didn't compromise anything, and I don't know. There's just something to franchise vibes that there's horrible irony that the Mets World Series team of last year coming into the season just had the anti-sauce, and then the Mets team that was built to sell, whether Manaea, Sevy, Alonso, whoever you wanted, here they are with, as the deadline hits, probably the best offense for a month in baseball. And I mean enough pitching that bullpen's pretty hodgepodgey, but I don't know. They've added Maton, Brazoban, Stanek. Anyone else? They went for it in the lightest way possible.
They did. And I'll also comp them real quick. Padres kind of going through the same thing. Like they're also a little bit post-hype, having some success now. I'd put them as needle mover. We talked about them earlier, but the thing that moved the needle for me on the Padres is just like if they make the playoffs, they're just gonna be stacked on the bullpen, man. It's gonna be unbelievable. Like the guys that can roll out 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, so they just, if they're in that position, like they're gonna be scary in the playoffs.
Yeah, I feel like it's become a bad click around articles like after the first round of the postseason, they'll be like re-ranking the postseason teams, or March Madness, they'll go like, now that we're down to 32, re-ranking the 32, and it's like St. Peter's is at 26. Something like that coming into the post. If the San Diego Padres make the postseason, that's a messed up team to play, dude. That's a lineup with stars, pitchers with gross stuff at every level. That, man, if the Preller ways ever came to fruition, seeing the copycat Prellers that would follow, it'd be kind of electric for the sport.
It would be electric. And I will point out, too, like another reason why the Padres could be hashtag built for October is their weakness right now is the back end of the rotation, but that doesn't matter as much in the playoffs. Just chuck number 5 in the bullpen and let your top guys cook.
Yeah, we're cooking. Who else really needs to be hit, Bailey? I feel like the Boston Red Sox, Houston Astros are a couple of the big teams. The Astros really... Only Kikuchi? Is there a bullpen body? Oh, our guy, Yankees legend.
Oh, Caleb Ferguson.
Caleb Ferguson ended up there. And then Boston, I don't know if the Mets are their comp for expectations heading into the season, but it felt like they also checked some soft ad boxes that they're banking on their timeline.
Yeah, they are. I actually disliked the Red Sox trade deadline more so than the Mets. I feel like the Mets went for it more. I feel like they had more concrete moves to improve the team. I know Red Sox needed some bullpen help, and they got the bullpen help, but again, it felt very much like we're banking on the timeline here, and I'm not also coming it from the perspective of, like I said about the Pirates, tomorrow's never granted. You don't know. You just don't know. If you got a shot at it, like, let's give it a good, honest shot.
Yeah, I see both sides of it, and maybe this is just a Yankee fan just praying that Boston's a weird mental exercise for me because their offensive numbers are pretty damn good, and they've been missing a lot of the guys that are supposed to be good for them. The rotation that was supposed to be a laughing stock of sorts has been electric, and it's like, right now it's They added Paxton, which was like a free bonus piece that I know some Atlanta fans and other teams were eyeing as like, ooh, James Paxton. But I don't know, like Houck, Pivetta, Cutter Crawford, and Bayo's the guy that I think you want to leave him in there just to find out if he can be the Brian Bayo we've heard about. That the bullpen was the need, and they added a couple bodies back there that, like, I get it from their front.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit more skeptical than you on it. I mean, Danny Jansen's a nice ad. I'll give him that.
Danny Jansen, I realize every team has these guys and the stats don't always back it up, but when Danny Jansen sees the pinstripes, he transforms. He's no longer Danny Jansen. It feels like, well, and he's probably one of your idols now, but Pommel Horse Steve. Like,
yes.
that's Danny Jansen versus the Yankees.
Pommel Horse Steve is very important for representation. When children and almost 29-year-old men watch the Olympics, it's important to see yourself represented.
I mean, I get all of it, and there is something beautiful to it. The fact that our society is just like, oh, look at this. This guy looks kind of nerdy, but he's going to contribute right at the end. Yes! We love Pommel Horse Steve.
It's funny. I don't want to get us too off kilter here, but it's so funny because, like, watching the men's all around was like, oh, look at these fun, scrappy underdogs. And then watching the women's all around was like, look at this fucking absolute tank of a team that no one can even come close to beating.
Right.
It's the same country.
Yeah. Yes, the U.S. men can get the bronze.
Yeah.
If the women blow this.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to check in on my father time takes here and there because there's a couple bronze medals for the USA that I was like, I don't know. I get that we're obnoxious and bad a lot, but it's a medal.
Yeah.
There's 2 above it.
But bronze is like, but silver sucks. Winning bronze is awesome.
Bronze is like a survival. We still got a medal.
Yes.
Silver's like, oh, if we were just...
Every silver medalist is just like crying at the end, like, oh, I blew it. And every bronze medalist is like, woohoo.
I will say it's been tough for me to watch the swimming stuff because that just gets separated by like the final tap. And I'm like, I would kill myself. Here we go. If I spent my life living in a pool, I'm not a strong swimmer. But if I spent my life swimming in a pool, I'm doing these days where I'm just swimming laps for 16, 18, 20 years, and I lose the Olympic gold medal, because that just can't be beat. It's the gold medal. Like, that's... I get if you have a medal, that's insane. It's still top 3, whatever. We just did this. The gold medal, no one can ever say anything. Everyone competes in this event. I got the gold medal. And I look back at a replay, and it's like, oh, yeah, that final stroke, 0.72 to 0.74. I shouldn't say I would kill myself. I would just be very, very sad.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's the trade deadline. Any other teams that really stand out for you? I feel bad because there's going to be a couple organizations that are like, I tuned into this. I guess Phillies deserves a little more mentioning.
Yeah, we can kind of speed run
Seattle.
Some of these.
You go wherever your heart desires, Bailey.
I'm gonna say Phillies moved the needle. I think I would comp it. I would say it was kind of like the Orioles one, like good team, made the ads that make sense, right?
You like their bullpen out, bullpen in moves?
I actually did. Did like it. I'm gonna say something nice here real quick. Angels, I thought the Estevez return was really nice. Speaking of the Phillies, I thought they did a really good job on that. They got 2 prospects with helium, which is a term we learned last time I was on here. And I think that was a nice sort of sneaky move for them. We'll see how it works out. Teams I didn't really like, I mean, I would say the Red Sox or not Red Sox, excuse me. The Cubs were what was this for me. We talked a little bit about it. The Paredes for Morel trade is going to be so fun to look back at it in a year from now, because who knows what direction that could go. I mean, that's 2 very different types of players who, theoretically play the same position and are a similar age. So that one's going to be fun. Cubs, I don't know, man. It's not that it's nothing matters, but I hated the Astros Blue Jays trade for the Astros perspective. Like, that was that's so much to give up for the end of Yusei Kikuchi's contract. Like, I'm sorry. And I like Kikuchi a lot, but that's just that's insane. Like, you got to get Flaherty or someone like that if that's the return.
Right. That's interesting in hindsight.
And actually I had some quick thoughts on that as well from the Tigers' perspective, which was that they don't need any more players like Will Wagner or Joey Loperfido because their team is pretty much comprised of them already. But I mean, still, Jake Bloss seems like a really good pitcher. Like there's a chance that Jake Bloss is going to pitch better than Yusei Kikuchi over the next 2 months.
Right.
And then they'll have him for 6 more years.
Yeah, that was very interested to see. Every season has ended up with same old Astros, so it's almost one of those like, hey, if Yusei Kikuchi has been a 2 ERA guy and he's striking out double-digit guys to start, it's like, okay, that's Houston. 1 year, everything's not going to happen for them. And I don't know. This year still has, seeing that they've caught the Mariners, but they haven't actually passed the Mariners, that was a head tilt for me this morning. Because they were on such a quick climb that it was like, okay, Houston's going to be ahead by 3 games now. Their chips are all in. And
they are. And I feel like and I mean, we may have talked about this for a while, like the competitive window is really, it's coming to a close,
I mean, couple Verlander old, Bregman final year probably. I don't know. Every time I say that, Kyle Tucker will be back, and
they need to get him extended like ASAP if they want any chance to be competitive, in the next few years.
Yankees will be down in the series 3-1, and I'll be sad watching Olympic swimming replays, wishing I was in that pool. Angels, I just want them to trade more guys. I feel like I'm sorry if you have Seattle. I feel like they did a lot of stuff. And was it needle moving? Did you like any of it?
I'm gonna say I'm actually gonna put it under a what was this? Like, I get the level of excitement for Rosarena, and maybe there is something to be said there similar to Jazz about getting like a energy guy, but Rosarena hadn't been that great this year, And the funny thing that like the Mariners have been trying to do is you'll remember is the constant oh, we strike out too much, let's get some contact hitters so we don't strike out too much. Oops, we still lead the league in strikeouts,
Yeah.
and now we don't hit any home runs, and Arozarena still strikes out a lot, so it's kind of funny there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not totally in love with it. I'm not totally in love with I mean, I get it. You need when you need bullpen help, but I'm not totally in love with them trading Jonathan Clase for
Right.
Yimi Garcia. And I thought that was another case where the Blue Jays did well, and that's why I have them towards that top tier.
Yeah, yeah, it's always funny reading the scouting stuff that they were like Class A 80 speed with the actual pop too, that if anything clicks, like that one can bite you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, as I do a final perusal, Bailey, of teams that I need to hear about. Cincinnati.
Rangers are definitely a nothing matters. That is their quintessential nothing matters.
Chafin
and then I think
Chafin and Bochy meant for each other though, so maybe
yeah,
something.
and I will
does
say,
matter.
BBD, I'm saying the White Sox could have done better, and that they not just in terms of like their decisions of who to sell and not sell, because I think some people are like, oh, what are they doing? They should have traded Crochet. They should have traded Luis Robert. I'm okay with that if they don't do that, but the guys they get traded, I feel like they should have gotten more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no,
I was torn on. I was thinking about them just because like they traded everyone that like had to go. I think
they did.
They did their minimum as far as moving off them. But
yeah, but just I feel like in terms of when they did that, the returns could have been better prospect wise.
Yeah, the thing for me that we laugh at prospects and we say update rankings and blah blah blah, and hey, this guy's from Harvard and his stuff ticked up. Rays. Yeah, there's a quantity aspect to prospects that just needs to be factored in, and the fact that the White Sox were sitting there with X amount of prospects that came back, and the Rays are sitting there with X amount of prospects that came back, like, who do you believe in? Which front office do you like more? For what was on the table, I'm very much with you on Crochet and Robert. I would love to know obviously anyone would love to know the offers out there. Crochet never made sense to me, and I'm glad I leaned into it a little bit just because the value prop is off. He's thrown way more innings than he's ever thrown, coming off of being hurt. So that I had him not being able to be traded because teams being like, I don't know what to do with this guy for the back half of this year. And then when he came out and laid his demands, I was like, no chance. This just isn't happening. And then Robert, I really would have liked to seen what the nuclear teams actually threw out there, because it's not Eloy level. It's not close to Eloy level, because Lubob can still go get it and has hit enough this year, but there's also injury stuff, and it's also that those $20 million team options can look super friendly if he's last year's Luis Robert. They can also look daunting if you're not sure what you're going to get.
Yeah, I think so. Like, we talked about this with Robert versus Rooker a little bit. Just the idea that those guys each have, I want to say 3.5 after this, like if we're counting this year as the half, and it's like, well, the Rooker years are going to be cheaper, and the Robert years, it's a team friendly deal overall, but 20 million is not nothing,
Right.
I mean, you're taking it, but the question is like, are you ecstatic to take it? Or are you like, we got to take it. We got to see what he's got. Because, even though he got injured last year, we just got to put him out there and hope he can do his thing.
Yeah, I would have, because the Orioles and White Sox were talking. I'm sure Luis Robert was on the table. You wonder if that ever got in either team's realm. Because if you're willing to pay for Zach Eflin for $18 million next year, I don't know. It's a very interesting game, especially between the Orioles' new ownership and playing out of the park baseball like we normally do. Bailey, if there's any teams that you feel like need to get shuffled or mentioned, I
have 4 teams that I haven't placed anywhere yet, and if there's objections to where guys are right now, Reds, Twins, A's, Nationals, I haven't placed anywhere yet. Twins, I don't know if we're giving them credit for, like, that's just an ownership level problem. Like, if we were GMs, we couldn't have done better. We would have had the same decisions, I think. But
Twins,
I liked it. I'll start. I liked the Nationals.
Okay.
I liked it. You could just call it a mouse mover. they did stuff that makes sense. I liked who they got in return overall, like in the Lane Thomas deal, like getting, I think, Clemmy and Rafael Ramirez Jr. and Jose Tain. Like those guys have all flashed at times, and Clemmy was, I think, their second rounder last year for Cleveland, and everyone liked it wasn't technically trade deadline, but everyone liked oh, you guys got a draft pick and a prospect for Hunter Harvey. I think they did a good job, even though it wasn't, they didn't have a ton to potentially sell like they did. Like last year when they had Candelario, for example, they didn't get to do the same with Nick Senzel this year because that one didn't quite work out. But I thought they did a good job.
Okay, yeah, I'm in on the Nats. Who else are Twins? Put them.
Twins.
Nothing. It doesn't matter.
Nothing matters.
I think it's nothing matters. Reds, A's. I need to play somewhere, and I'd love to hear thoughts on where the Royals should land.
We can put A's under. Could have done better, I think, and that's not like that is the one maybe even more so than the White Sox where I could be like, should you? I mean,
right.
By deadline day they weren't going to trade Mason Miller because he's hurt, But I just wondered about a Rooker deal because I feel like there could have been serious return there, and maybe that was the time. I don't know. I love Rooker though. Maybe it's not such a bad thing. Maybe that's too harsh, but just to fill out the tier list, let's put them at the bottom there just because they could have gotten a lot of prospect capital to really turn things around, and they didn't.
And felt like they just waited too long.
They did.
That,
a lot.
That grouping at the bottom, that's how it feels like a tier
Those
list.
are the best organizations in baseball right there.
So Reds need a home. Pirates, Royals. I was in between.
Reds, nothing matters.
Yeah, a little bit. See you, Frankie. They were actually
we've got Royals on there.
Royals,
Yeah.
Royals, I have in a spot. I could argue they moved the mask because they did stuff. It'll help. I don't know, but nothing
I'm fine with
changed.
the Royals where they're at.
Haley hates their trade, so
It's the problem. I hate their trades. I
hate their city.
but I also kind of like their roster.
hate their barbecue. Do you get hate from any cities or fan bases? No, right? You're pretty generally
Jays.
well liked. Blue Jays?
Yeah, I know y'all
Yeah.
encounter the same thing.
Yeah.
But at least we're giving credit where credit's due because they did have a nice
Look at
trade
that.
deadline this time around.
Top of the heap. IKF out, you say out. Bailey, I thank you. In a way, this was a tier list. In a way, this was just chopping ball, which that's what I'm about. Everyone go follow Foolish Bailey on every platform. YouTube, Twitter, Insta, X2, any other websites?
Friendster, LiveJournal,
Teamster, Microsoft Office.
farmersonly.com.
Yeah, you do well there. Bailey, thank you. We'll talk to you again. Probably a topical one. August is when some of the fan bases start to tune out a little bit, but we'll figure that out another time. For now, BBD, tell him what Uncle Dan says.
Talkin Jake is a production of Dan Patrick Productions, John Boy Media, and Workhouse Media.